What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the full Season 3 Classified Arms, Season 3 Reloaded mid-season update for Warzone. It's both for Rebirth and Caldera. It's going to be a pretty long video because there are a ton of changes here. So I'll first go over the gameplay changes and then go into the weapon changes in the second half of the video. As always, if you guys like the content, consider dropping a like and a comment on the video and subscribe if you want to see more of this content. But let's jump into it and we will talk about Season 3 Classified Arms. So the patch notes were super long, so I tried to go in and condense all the gameplay aspects down. We're going to go through all the individual weapon changes separately, but first gameplay. So Champions of Caldera, this is a new game mode. It's solos only. You start with your loadout, a respawn token, a gas mask. They say they buffed the loot, so the loot's going to be much more common to get like legendary items out of that, so more respawn tokens and things like that. It has a constantly closing circle, so that's different. I don't think we've ever had that before. And at the buy stations, you can actually buy advanced UAVs and specialists. So it's going to be an interesting mode. I'm excited to try it out. I've never really played solos, but that sounds kind of interesting to me. And then obviously we have this new perk, Serpentine. So Serpentine, this was covered in my previous video, but it reduces your incoming damage by 20% while sprinting. This is a blue perk, so this is going to be combating with like Cold-Blooded and EOD. I think it's going to be pretty much an instant pick. We'll see. I could be wrong about that, but I think just 20% reduced damage while sprinting is going to be a crazy buff. And this is kind of going to mean that you should probably start using DPS on TrueTechData instead of TTK, just because there's going to be so many different health values and different damage values that can happen now. Just an average DPS is probably a better value than the time to kill, because one person with Serpentine versus one person without Serpentine could completely mess up the time to kill. And it might now just be better to, get a flat average DPS for a shot location or across the body, just to know how the weapon's going to perform roughly in all situations, rather than having a concrete TTK. The radar jammer field upgrade, this basically just scrambles the tac map for the enemy. So it works for 45 seconds and has a radius of 125 meters. So that's pretty huge. I mean, that's a really big radius. That's going to be a very effective field upgrade. And something to note that I thought was important is that it can be hacked by players with Engineer. And I thought this was important because Engineer's in like all the loot boxes now, it seems like. So you're actually going to have the perk Engineer a lot. And you'll be able to hack this and make it work for your team instead of whoever dropped it. They've adjusted the perks that are in boxes. So now Serpentine, Tune-Up, Tracker, Hardline, Kill Chain, and EOD can drop from the boxes. Just more lootable perks there. Loadout drop markers also can drop out of boxes. There's going to be new high value loot zones, so this will be a big money symbol on the mini map or the big map, and if you drop there, there'll be a bunch of high value loot, obviously. So interesting ad there. I think that'll kind of mix up where people hot drop, which would be kind of nice, rather than just like one set hot drop spot. There's a new underground transit system. Again, I covered this before, but I just thought I'd bring it up if you guys hadn't seen that other video I made. There's 14 locations throughout the map, and they have set directions they go, so you can see that there's an arrow on all of these that points the direction that you'll fast travel. Some of them have two options. I don't know if there's actually two doors and you can pick which direction you want to go, or if it's random. I haven't used it yet. We'll see. It also has a green light if there's no one near the other side. So obviously with a fast travel thing, if you just pop up there, somebody could be camping that and waiting for you. So they've added these green lights where if there's no one there, it's green. If there is someone there, it's red. It'll also show some sort of indicator for if you're fast traveling into gas, or if the gas is nearby when you're fast traveling there. So respawn tokens were added. This is basically just a token that drops out of boxes. If you get that, you'll respawn immediately when you die, even in BR modes. So I think they're kind of trying to mix in some of that Rebirth Island mechanics into this game mode, trying to get people in the game longer. I don't know. I can see pluses and minuses to that, but overall, I think for me it's a good change. But we'll see. Gulag tokens are the same sort of thing, except when you loot that, you get a free second chance at the gulag. So if you've already had your gulag, you pick up one of these tokens, you can go to the gulag a second time. That'll be interesting. Self-revive spawn rate was increased. I don't like this at all. It's very frustrating when everyone in the map has self-revive, just because it means you have to finish your kill. Or else they're just going to get up and hide and plate, and then you have to down them again. So I don't really like that change. Player count was reduced to 120 from 150 on all BR modes, and this was because of the respawn token and the gulag token. That's going to obviously increase the rate that players are alive in the match. So in order to make it not feel claustrophobic, they said they reduced the player count to 120. I think that's probably a good change, but we'll see how that feels in practice. Again, player buyback cost was reduced by 1,000, so now it's 3,000 instead of 4,000. They're kind of just trying to get people in the match longer, I think, trying to probably, you know, increase that player retention here with these changes. And they saw the success of Rebirth, so I think they're kind of trying to mix that into some of the regular BR modes. You only lose 50% of your money when you die now rather than 80%, so 50% is left on the ground and you keep 50% versus 80% is left on the ground and 20% you keep. They said they worked on footstep audio, but if you look at the fine print, it basically says just NPC footstep audio, so any of the NPC locations on the map, they've reduced that footstep audio. Sliding camera lock, so this is the issue where if you're sliding down a hill or something, it would lock your view at a certain, you know, left or right or up or down. So they said they improved this. We'll have to see. I've heard this feels a little bit weird, and someone said that they thought they broke something else when trying to fix this. I have no idea, haven't used it yet, but hopefully it is better. Incoming kill streak banner was moved out of the center of the screen. This is something that drove me crazy. Anytime someone would call in a precision airstrike or a cluster strike, it would go like right across the middle of my screen and I couldn't see anything. So they've just moved that out of the center of the screen now, which is really nice. You're no longer brought back to the lobby screen from the menu when the party leader queues. So before you're in the match, if you were like building a weapon in the loadouts or something and the party leader queued into a match, it would kick you back to the home screen for some reason. You have to go start that loadout build again. This is actually a really nice quality of life improvement for me, especially, and probably a lot of you, because I'm playing with my loadouts all the time. And when my, you know, party leader queues into a match, I have to start that whole process over. So that's very annoying. That's a nice change. There's a completely new HUD. So I took a little picture of it here. This was in the pregame lobby. I didn't actually get into a match, so I don't know what these dots are. I would assume each one of those dots is a different item or something. So what it said that it shows now is if your teammates have gas mask, what kill streak they have, self-revive, if they have any key cards, if they have a gulag entry or a redeploy extraction token. It also has an icon if your team can afford a loadout drop, so it does the math for you now. There's also an icon if the player buyback costs are met. So if you have 3,000 between the teammates, and then the number of plates your teammates have, and it'll also show total squad cash. So this is just a really nice quality of life improvement. I have yet to actually see it in practice. This is just what I saw in the pregame lobby before I made this video. The ghost perk, reduce player movement speed to trigger perks. So this probably works well. Before, if you were crouch walking, ghost didn't work. So if there was a UAV up and you were crouch walking, ghost would show you on the mini map or the big map. And I'm assuming that they changed the threshold just enough that ghost now will work if you're crouch walk movement. And then last but not least, the armored truck health and damage were nerfed. So this was an annoying thing that you could spawn into the map by doing the sabotage contract, but they've nerfed that now and it is not quite as good. It also doesn't exist in solo game modes anymore, which is a huge W. So first up, before I dive into all the weapon changes, I do want to note that they have increased the health in all game modes now. So Rebirth Island is now 300 total health with plates. All the private lobbies are now 300 health with plates. So that's a fantastic change. Makes making videos much easier, because now when I say something's really good at 300 health, it's also going to be really good in Rebirth, not just Caldera. But let's get into the weapon changes. So starting with some simple lethal changes, frag grenade damage increased by 25%. Frags already did an incredible amount of damage. So they're going to be just ridiculously good now. If you master the timing of cooking the frag, it's going to do just insane amounts of damage and splash damage to anyone nearby. Throwing knives damage increased by 20%. So they've gotten this back to being a one hit upper torso or headshot down. This was the case at 250 health, but then in Caldera at 300 health, it didn't one hit to the upper chest or headshot. So this is a nice change. I liked this because it was kind of like a last ditch thing a lot of the time. Like, you'll have a throwing knife, you've just downed somebody, but you're almost dead, and somebody's from that guy's team is pushing you, and you can just last ditch effort try to hit him with the throwing knife in the right spot and get that down. And this is pretty huge. It's kind of a fun little last ditch effort thing there. Way more damage increased by 20%. Marksman increased by 25%. Semtex increased by 5%. This is probably just to balance these out with 300 health. They just never upped these from the original numbers. when they increased health. All right, so on to the weapon adjustments. These are not on TrueTechData yet. If you go to the website, you'll see that there's a notice saying that the update's in progress. As soon as I finish, it'll probably be, I don't know, a couple hours for me to finish all of these updates, just because I have to actually get in and test that new SMG and test all the attachments that go along with it. So that's going to take me a while. And then getting all of the patch note changes just directly input into TGD is going to take some time too. So it'll probably be about 2 hours after this video comes out that all the changes will be live, but this will be updated and it'll be green saying that it's finished. Also, if you want to help the process with testing this new H4 Blix and SMG, come to my Twitch channel after watching this video. I'll probably be live within, I don't know, 15 minutes after this video goes live, and I'm going to need people to help start a private lobby so I can test this weapon. So again, my Twitch is twitch.tv/TrueGameDataLive. It'll be linked in the video description. But anyway, let's get into the weapon changes. So we get the new SMG, obviously. Have to get the numbers to that to really know how it fits in. So the Black Ops Cold War AK-47 got another nerf. Headshot multiplier or neck shot multiplier was decreased a tiny bit. And then the recoil was nerfed a little bit as well with the last barrel. AS-44 got a slight buff. The initial recoil was decreased again. So we'll have to check this out, see if it's more viable now. It always has the best time to kill, but the recoil is just really hard to use. That might make it viable. A 3.56% increase to bullet velocity, guys. That's what we needed. That's what it needed to be viable for sure. Evidently the on-hand perk wasn't working before, but now it does. The bar got a very big buff. So the headshot damage multiplier was increased from 1.5 all the way up to 1.85. That's a huge headshot multiplier. Magazine capacities were increased across the board. You can get all the way up to 60 rounds of the 50 BMG now, which is going to be ridiculous damage per mag. We'll have to see if his headshot damage multiplier really makes it more viable. The fire rate multiplier decreased to -15% from -10%, so that's a nerf. It now shoots a little bit slower. So it already shot really slow before, so we'll see if these are good, because they weren't that good before. We'll just have to see how that plays out. Cooper Carbine, 4.55% increase in bullet velocity. Wow, huge. C58. So C58 is actually in a really good spot. I don't think a lot of people know this, but the recoil is kind of bad nowadays, but it's not terrible and it's relatively consistent. It was one of the best guns for Iron Trials for sure. Still very good in regular BR. So it caught a little bit of a nerf, just a slight neck shot nerf. They absolutely killed the AMAX. Somebody didn't like the meta video that I made a couple weeks ago where I said the AMAX was actually still pretty good. They don't want those Modern Warfare guns to be good anymore, so they just absolutely destroyed this. Max damage down by 4 and min damage down by 7. That's crazy. Like that's like a 25% nerf to damage at range. I don't know why they did that. It's not like anybody was using this. FARA 83 min damage decreased to 22 down from 23. The FARA is a really good gun right now as well. So it caught a slight damage nerf out at range. Nikita AVT, so the recoil pattern has been adjusted. I'll have to check this out. Before it had a very kind of snaky recoil pattern, which made it really hard to use at long range. So if it's just a more straight line now, the Nikita could definitely sneak into being closer to a meta weapon. I just need to check out that recoil pattern. Spitfire time was increased by 10%, just trying to make it less of an SMG, I guess. The ITRA burst headshot multiplier was increased slightly, so that's a little buff. They've been buffing this for a while. I haven't checked it out because, to me, because it has a drop off and it's a significant drop off, I find it hard to believe that it could be more meta than like an M16, because the M16, the Cold War AUG, the FR556 all still have those same buffs from all the way back in Verdansk, where they don't have a drop off, so they do 40 damage to the body all the way out, and the ITRA has a huge drop off, so it's hard for me to believe they could be meta. That's why I haven't looked at them, but I've heard they're decent, so I will check it out at some point. The NZ41 got a nice buff, so they adjusted the recoil pattern. Again, I just had to check that out, but I've heard good things about this before. It felt almost random. Like the first 5 or 6 shots were pretty predictable, and then after that, it just kind of bounced left and right in like a random pattern. So hopefully that's been adjusted and it'll actually be usable now. The barrels got big buffs as well across the board. Yeah, I think they're kind of trying to sneak the NZ41 into the meta, maybe based on this, just because these are huge buffs across the board. And that's good because we need some competition for the STG. The Vargo 52, which is the Black Ops Cold War AR, min damage was increased to 24 up from 23, so that's interesting because it was already really good. Headshot multiplier increase as well. This is probably like a 1 damage change. Probably makes it so it's like only needs 1 headshot to reduce the TTK or something. I'll have to see when I get this uploaded to TGD how this affects it. The Volks, so the Volks was buffed a little bit in headshot damage and neck shot damage, but they did nerf that ADS movement speed a tiny bit. I mean 5% and then 5% again. That's like hardly anything. I think it's still going to be crazy good. I think overall this is going to be just a buff. Like I don't think you're really going to notice a 10% difference in your ADS movement speed compared to having extra damage. So we'll see how that plays out. XM4, so max damage would decrease back to 28. I think it was like last patch or 2 patches ago where they actually buffed it for long range by a little bit. So now they've nerfed it back to where it was. They've also reduced the damage range a little bit and the neck damage multiplier. So XM4 is going to be brought back kind of where it should be. It was just really good before. Marksman rifles, the SVT 40 got a little bit of a buff. M1916 a little bit of a buff. M1 Garand a little bit of a buff. I think they're all going to be unusable still. They all still use sniper ammo. They're just very difficult weapons to use. So I don't think this is going to be enough to bring them into the meta at all. There's a bunch more sniper rifle changes here. So bullet drop off increased for the HDR. I'm assuming that means it has more bullet drop now. So more of an aggressive. They can kind of tweak. I think there's parameters in the code of the game that they can kind of tweak. Essentially like gravity. I don't know if it's actually that they're trying to do real bullet mechanics for these things with drag, like air drag, or if there's just some parameter they can tweak that can make the drop more or less. I don't know how it works behind the scenes, but there's definitely been different amounts of bullet drop before for the same bullet velocity, which is really interesting. So now I'm assuming the HDR has more bullet drop. Pellington, 5 meter damage range nerf. So now it'll only hit 1-shot headshot at 43 meters instead of 48 meters. ZRG caught a body shot nerf. Honestly, this was warranted. Like the ZRG was just the best. There was no competition for the ZRG really. Some people tried to make other things seem competitive, but they just really weren't, in my opinion. It also caught a 5% bullet velocity nerf, so I think this is good. I mean, the ZRG was just above and beyond the other snipers. X50 bullet velocity decreased by 5%. Okay. Don't know why. 3-line rifle bullet velocity increased by 7%, and then the barrels also caught a bullet velocity increase. Bullet drop off decreased, so less bullet drop now. Sprint to fire scalar increased to 1.0, up from 0.99. Oh, that's a big change right there. 3-line new meta. 3-line new meta has 0.01, so 1% better sprint to fire time. Or worse sprint to fire time. I don't know. Either way. Why is that in the patch notes? Dragunov. Ooh, look at that. Dragunov caught a slight buff. A 5 meter buff to its damage range. That's not going to change anything. It's like, I don't understand why some of these changes happen. Like, if they want to make the Dragunov work at all, they have to do more to it than damage range. And these guys know that, so I don't understand why they tweak things that way sometimes. Rytech AMR. So this is the Rytech from Modern Warfare. Now 1 shots to the head within max damage range. Max damage increased to 125. Damage range decreased to 59 meters. So this is actually going to be pretty good now. This is how these should have been to start with. So the M82, which is basically the Rytech, but in Black Ops Cold War, which was always really good, had much higher bullet velocity than the Rytech. Both of these caught that 1 shot to the head buff. So that's huge. This is going to bring the M82 back sort of into the mix as something you could use as a meta sniper, I think. It doesn't say what the damage range is for this, but yeah, that's a big buff for those snipers. Type 99 damage range increased to -20%, up from -25%. Okay, cool. Bullet velocity scalar increased by 10%. Bullet velocity scalar. So looks like the Type 99 got a nice buff, except for the upper torso damage with the sniper barrel. So I believe this is the gun that could 1-shot to the chest, and now it can no longer 1-shot to the chest. Renko, bullet drop off decreased, so that's a buff. Bullet velocity dramatically increased. Yeah, so this is interesting. This is 30% more bolt velocity with the Gorenko, so I'll have to check that out, see if that's something that can fit in at all into the meta. Vanguard Car 98 added the Frenzy weapon perk. I don't know what that does. Max damage range increased by 2 meters. ADS speed of the 10x was changed. What? Nobody's going to use the 10x. I don't understand that. The RE02K barrel damage range was now increased by 20%. So that's a nice buff. This will probably make the Car 98, I had to guess, the Vanguard Car 98 like the meta quick ADSing sniper, just based on these changes. On to shotguns. Shotguns caught a big damage decrease, so 20% decrease for all the shotguns that are listed here. So Street Sweeper, Gallo, Jack 12, Origin, R9, and the Gracie Auto. Nobody's really covering this, but the shotguns were really, really, really good in the current meta, and I kind of purposely didn't cover it because I didn't want people to use shotguns. But yeah, they were really good, so this is a good change for them to make. Combat shotgun from Vanguard got a nice buff across the board. And then submachine guns. Milano had a big nerf, so damage range was decreased to 12 meters, down from 18 meters. That's a huge nerf. It's like almost 20%. And then mid damage was added at 33, so 33 meters or 33 damage. I think probably 33 damage. Mid damage range is now at that 17.8 meters. And then the mid damage is reduced as well. So the Milano got a very big nerf. It's going to be much worse for sniper support now, and probably just worse as an SMG in general. It was in a pretty good spot before, but now it's probably not going to be too usable. The Lapa, they're finally changing the Lapa after all these years. It's been a really good gun that didn't get used for a long time. So the max damage in the first range was reduced a bunch. That's sad. It does have extra range now though, so it has about 2.5 meters of extra range in that first drop off. Mid damage was reduced a ton, and then min damage was reduced a ton again. So basically they extended the range but killed the damage. So this is probably going to push the Lapa out of being a gun that you're going to want to choose. OTS 9, the first damage drop off, so the max damage was decreased by 1. OTS is really good right now. It just has no damage range, so I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. It's going to be pretty good still. So the Arma, slight reduction to initial recoil. I'm seeing a trend with all these patch notes. It seems like they're just kind of trying to get all the old guns out of here and just like make the Vanguard guns viable. So the Arma is a new Vanguard gun, so it's getting a buff basically. Vertical recoil multiplier decreased. So vertical recoil multiplier decreased. So yeah, now it increases your recoil less than before. So this is a buff. And then the 30 Russian short mag damage penalty decreased to -4%, up from -5%. So slightly more damage with this barrel now. And then visual recoil was decreased. So overall, just a slight buff to the Arma. The Owen gun finally getting a huge nerf. It's been the meta for so long. Upper extremities damage multiplier decreased to 1, down from 1.45. So massive change. Lower extremities damage multiplier decreased to 0.9, down from 1. So yeah, the headshot and neck shot are now going to do the same amount of damage as before, but it's going to have a normal chest multiplier and reduced extremities multiplier. So it's going to be gone. This is going to kill it. Reduced damage ranges as well. Gorenko mags were slightly nerfed as well. So yeah, the Owen gun's going to be out of the meta finally. Modern Warfare AUG. Modern Warfare AUG 5.56 max damage was decreased. Mid damage was decreased. And the mid damage range was decreased. So it used to have a 40 meter range before the third drop off, or the third range. Now it's down to 30 and a half meters. Very small change to damage here, but it probably affects the shots to kill with a headshot mixed in or something like that. The AUG was never something that was super popular with the community, but I always loved it because it was always really low recoil and really fast time to kill, which tends to be the kind of gun that I like to use. So I'm kind of sad to see this, but again, it's not a huge change, so I'm not too worried about it. So the Wellgun's in a great spot right now. They've added the frangible weapon perk, which I believe is the one where if you shoot the legs of someone, it's like a mini stun if you hit their legs. This perk on the Modern Warfare guns only worked if they didn't have plates on. So I'll have to check this out and see if that's true in Vanguard as well. That kind of made it useless, really, for the Vanguard or the Modern Warfare guns. So hopefully it's not that way. It'll actually be pretty good if it works with someone that has plates on. The Gawain Short, this was probably the most common barrel for the well gun. The fire rate was decreased from an increase of 10% down to an increase of only 6%. So it's going to shoot a little bit slower now. And it removed the damage range penalty. So that's actually a buff. So mixing those two together is probably still going to be pretty good. UGR magazine capacity was increased to 40 up from 30. So I wonder if they also increased the explosive mag, because now the default magazine is going to be bigger than the explosive mag, which had, I think, 32 or 34 or something bullets. That's interesting. All right, so on to pistols. I'm going to cover this really quickly. Pistol melee attacks now require 3 successive hits to initiate a finisher. So I think a finisher is almost like I don't know what to call it. It's almost like a critical hit kind of thing where it does more damage or something. This is why like melees have felt weird for a long time. But anyway, it takes more melee hits to down people now. And I think this is more than just pistols. I think this is all the weapons in the game now take an extra hit to down someone. So this is a huge, awesome, amazing change. We've been asking for this forever. The Vanguard 1911, the ACP mags have a higher magazine capacity now, up to 24, and a mid damage buff, so long range damage buff. Basically, most of these pistols got a pretty big buff. So the Clouser is a really high amount of damage for a pistol to do. The Rat also caught a really big damage buff in the mid and third damage drop off. Diamante got a big nerf, which is good because it's always been just insanely good. Machine pistol caught a buff. This is going to be interesting. I need to check out the machine pistol now. Significant reduction of the recoil. It says a reduction of base recoil control, which would indicate an increase in recoil, but that is not what they're saying. They're saying that they reduce the recoil. So it should be an increase in base recoil control, because control is a good thing. But anyway, they mixed up the mags a little bit as well. The rapid barrel got a big nerf from 20% increased fire rate down to only 5%. And then I'm not going to cover those two changes for the other mags, but yeah, the machine pistol could be a really interesting secondary with these changes. It has a big mag as well, which is really nice. Launchers, the Panzerfaust. ADS time slightly changed, move speed slightly changed, and ADS movement speed slightly changed. Cool. They were definitely, community was really itching for that change. Akimbo now reduces damage by 10% on all pistols. It already reduced the damage for like the Vanguard or the Black Ops Cold War and Modern Warfare pistols, so apparently this was just added for the Vanguard pistols now. The MX silencer bullet velocity increased 15%. That's a big change. So now across the board, the MX silencer is going to increase your bullet velocity slightly more than the other silencer, kind of differentiating the two a little bit more. I think that's a good change. And then the F8 stabilizer, this is actually a really big increase to damage range. Unfortunately, it's competing against suppressors, but a 15% increase to damage range is dramatic. I mean, that's close to like some of the barrels. So, rose skin adjustment, they increased the brightness of the rose skin again, because with the new changes to the map, it was still really hard to see the rose skin. All right, so that does it for the Season 3 Reloaded patch notes. Huge patch. I apologize for how long the video was, but I wanted to cover all the patch notes in case someone just wanted to watch this video to learn about what was changed. I use Clean Raven software patch notes, and I think I know who does this now because this was recently added. So KevBond3 on Twitter. These patch notes are amazing. Good work. If you're the person who did this, I'm assuming you are since it's on this page. You guys should go drop him a follow on Twitter, because these are super useful, cleaned up patch notes for anybody who wants to understand them better. They don't use the annoying, Vanguard assault rifle Charlie nomenclature. Like, this converts all that for you, gives you colors to nerfs and buffs. Just an awesome little tool. So go drop him a follow. But like I said, right after this, I'm gonna go start working on getting all this updated for TGD. If you want to help out, twitch.tv/TrueGameDataLive. I'll be starting a private lobby to test the new SMG. And then after that, I will be inputting all of the new values from the patch notes directly onto TGD, hopefully up within about 2 hours after this video goes live. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a good day, enjoy Season 3, and I will see you in the next video.